hardest part isn't getting there. It's doing it in a manner that you know you're going to be really glad you did it in 3 years from now and 4 years from now. So
you don't want people to regret that at the end.
Yeah, you don't want to be a flash in the pan and do it by just, we actually got approved by our investment committee for an up to $4 million increase in our cost of energy for renewables when we had approval to move forward, which is a significant, $30 million savings, $4 million is a significant portion of it. And that's when you just isolate out the LGCs, because overall with our procurement approach, it is cheaper, but the LGCs had a genuine and real value. But if I did it with that $4 million and set myself up so it was going to cost me $4 million the year after and the year after, I know that there would have been some people going, oh, come on, how do we cut this?
Yeah, yeah.
So what we did was basically plan for 2025 as opposed to 2020 and thought, well, what are the big changes as everyone does this? Because everyone will.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, someone has to go first, and then once they've done it, others go, well, actually, it's not impossible. We don't have to push it out to 2030 or 2040. So we had to do a lot of work on, remember the RET?
Yes.
The RET, which had good principles. You want to have reliable, energy, you want to have affordable energy, you want to have green energy. We really focused on this reliability issue because as we and everyone moves to basically renewable energy, you're going to be moving to non-dispatchable energy. That's going to have implications. So we started our demand response program straight away. And if anything, that was probably, so demand response is basically as the sun doesn't shine and the wind doesn't blow and there's not enough energy, how do we change how much energy we need as opposed to back in the old days, we'd just flick a switch and it was always there. And starting that out when there's a lot of people saying we'll do a service that can achieve X, Y and Z when really they've got no runs on the board themselves was quite challenging.
So how have you then put demand response into it in terms of buildings and that?
Yeah, so several things, and it's one of the things that will surprise a lot of people is as you have less dispatchable energy available, which might only be 1 or 2% of the year that you have a problem, you need infrastructure to deal with that. And you're either waiting for a snowy hydro 2 and Tesla to roll out batteries everywhere, or you're going, we have our own capabilities. So every one of our office buildings has backup generators. They sit there, they get run for tests, every now and then to make sure if there's a fire or something, a blackout, you can, there for safety. And they have the capability to provide energy when there's a shortfall of energy in the grid if you play your cards right. So that's existing infrastructure, but it does mean when you use them, you've got to burn diesel. And it's a bit of a conflict. You want to go carbon neutral, but to make it done in a reliable way, you need to burn some diesel, dirty diesel.
Yeah.
Why would I be using dirty diesel? It's like, well, for 1% of the year, I may have to use some diesel to enable 99% of the year for me to have reliable renewables energy. So that's part of it. And then a bunch of work on the old-fashioned demand management where basically you plan a little bit better ahead. So if it's going to be a stinking hot day and you think there's going to be a lack of energy, you pre-cool, and then when it becomes really, really hot and there's not enough energy, you've got so much thermal mass that's cooled down, you can let your air conditioning cruise for a while.
That's great.
Bit of that.
Yeah.
A bit of, we're doing a battery safety study at the moment, so the idea with diesels are just to give us something to tie us over until the batteries in our buildings take over. But we won't do batteries in our building until, we don't want hoverboard type incidents in a building with 5,000 people.
No.
So we're doing a big safety study on batteries with all of our learnings from demand response on dirty diesels going to be transferable straight over to batteries.
That's great. That's great. Oh, that's good.
So that was the hard part, was in 2018 thinking, I don't want to do 2020 and get it across the line and upset people and become harder and harder each year. I want it to be, I want us to have strong capacity in 2025.
Yeah, and you don't want people to regret it. It's great.
No, and a lot of that's one of the things with people buying long-term PPAs. There's a lot of talk of that. You do find that the Australian energy regulators change the rules. And there's a lot of people that will have written contracts for PPAs in the last couple of years that won't be worth the paper they're written on in the mid-20s, because instead of buying energy, you'll be buying capacity, a bit like you do with the networks. And if your contract is for an amount of energy as opposed to capacity, you may as well rip up this contract. And so that's been flagged by the regulators. So the way we did it was we went short to medium. So we brought forward to end 2021 all of our LGC requirements, so green power. Green power brand for the voluntary, which we did as a favour for the NABERS office, because an LGC and green power are basically exactly the same thing.
No, that's interesting.
Yeah, but we're actually now going into the market because the regulator has flagged what they probably will do for the next decade. So we're now going to the market for up to 2030 with our renewables.
Okay.